Ever had someone ask you a question that you know, and somehow your brain decides that today is the day that it wants to embarrass you? Like the answer is somewhere in your head, right? But it just decides to do hide and seek. Maybe it happened during an interview, maybe it happened when your lecturer called on you, or maybe it happened when someone asked you, can you explain this? And suddenly your brain is actually thinking of many things except from the actual answer. And then after the conversation, you're literally replaying it in your head and being like, I knew this thing now. Why couldn't I say this thing? If that's ever happened to you, this is the video for you. If you're new here, hello, my name is 𝓘𝓽𝓂𝓏. And I believe life becomes a little more meaningful when you're willing to ask questions, try new things, and grow through the process. So whether you're exploring an idea, creating something from scratch, simply just documenting the journey, I'm so glad you're here. And if you're not already subscribed, I really don't see why. Now let's get into the video. A few days ago during my internship, my supervisor asked me a question. What is frequency? Simple, very simple question. And I answered. I knew the answer. And then he came up with a follow-up question. I was like, what is the formula of frequency? Now, if you're an engineering student, you're probably already shouting the answer in your head. But if you're not an engineering student, don't worry, don't calm down, just calm down. This is not an engineering video because what happened next could literally happen to anybody else. Instead of answering the question, my brain literally opened every other single tab that I knew about frequency, electromagnetic waves, wavelengths, velocity, time, every single thing that has to do with velocity, except the main answer to that question. Nothing I was thinking was completely wrong. It was just not the answer that was needed exactly in that situation. So naturally, I left there thinking, why? Like, why couldn't my brain just bring it up for me and tell me the answer? There's actually a reason for this. So there's this thing that psychologists do where they differentiate the different kinds of knowledge. One of them is called declarative knowledge. The name sounds complicated, but the idea isn't. It's simply just knowing the facts, the definition, the information, the kind of knowledge where if someone shows it to you, you can identify that, yeah, this is exactly it. The second type of knowledge is procedural knowledge. That's knowing how to use what you know. Think about cooking now. You can memorize the whole recipe to bake a cake, and probably your oven is not working or have a missing ingredient. You have to raw dog it and understand that there is a larger difference between knowing the recipe and actually knowing how to apply that recipe when you need it. It's basically the difference between knowing knowledge and applying knowledge. Now, that's basically what happened to me. It's not that I didn't know what frequency was, but that I was still learning how to use knowledge under pressure. Why then does our brain go blank? Then I found out something that is called retrieval practice. And honestly, this one attacked me personally. Because most of us spend so much time learning how to cram information that we forget to learn how to put those information out of our brains. Think of it like your phone gallery. If I ask you to pull up a picture from 3 years ago, you know that that picture is in your phone gallery. You just don't know where exactly. So when I ask you to pull up that picture, you don't just pull it out in like 0.5 seconds. It takes time for you to go through the gallery, go to where it is located, and actually find that image. Just because something is stored doesn't mean that you can access it instantly. Apparently, retrieving information is a skill that you have to learn, not just born with it. But why exactly do we freeze? This was my favorite part. Because even if the information is there, your brain is still doing 100 things at the same time. So while you're trying to answer, your brain is also thinking, don't get this wrong. Why are they looking at me like that? Answer quickly. Don't embarrass yourself. Say something intelligent. At this point, your brain is multitasking. So most times it isn't that you don't know the answer, it's that your brain has so many tabs open at the same time. And honestly, yeah, this example made so much sense. It made me understand that forgetting is not always a knowledge problem, it's mostly a pressure problem. Another thing I learned is transfer of learning, which is basically your ability to take what you learned in one place and apply it in another place. And I think this is basically why school and real life can be so different, because in school you're given the formulas, you're given the definitions, you're given what will come out potentially in your exams, but in the real life no one tells you that this is what I'm going to ask you tomorrow. Real life expects you to figure that part out. And I think that's why internships, projects, and real life experiences are really needed. Not because school is useless, but because they teach you to connect the dots. So what are we going to change? This experience changed something for me, and it can also change something for you too. Now, instead of only asking, can I remember this? Is this studyable? Am I going to remember this in the exam hall? I'm going to start asking, can I explain this? Can I teach this to someone else? Would I recognize this if it was shown to me differently? Because maybe understanding is not about how much information you can collect, but it's about how much information you are willing to use. If my supervisor were to ask me this question again, I would probably answer it. Not because I became the smartest person overnight, but because I understand what my brain was struggling with. And it doesn't even just happen in only engineering. It happens in interviews, during presentations, at work, at school, in everyday life. So if you've ever left a conversation thinking, I knew this, why didn't I just say it? You're not weird, and you're most definitely not alone. And you're not the only one whose brain has betrayed them at a very important moment. If this video made you think differently about the way you learn, I would love for you to tell me a moment when this happened to you. I read my comments and I would genuinely love to hear your stories. If you enjoy videos that make you stop, think, and see everyday life a little different, then subscribe and join me. We've got plenty more rabbit holes to go down through. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.